ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week. Good friend and colleague, live from LA, Mr. Ron Marmolevsky. Go follow him on X at Ron A Sports. We've been doing shows together for 4 years. Hopefully next year we'll make year number 5. The best in the business, not weeks, not months, not years, decades of data, and no one breaks down the NFL or NCAAF like Ron. So please go follow him. And the funny thing about it is if you ask a question, Ron actually replies. He's one of the good guys. So get on board there. First and foremost, a shout out to my proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber, Holly, Carol, Bucks, Matthew, Allen. The list is endless. Come on board. Drew, Jacob. Join the community today at WagerWire. And I promise you, 2026 will be epic. And last but never least, Terry Smith, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Yes, he's in Atlanta, and I'm in Cape Cod, Mass., but I got a package today from Terry. I got filet mignons, I got cowgirls, I got chicken. I cannot believe I am not just going to be eating well for the holidays. I'm going to be eating well for 2026 and beyond. Big shout out to Terry. Dry ice, that thing, there was more ice in there. I mean, it probably could have went to Canada and beyond over to wherever from there. So give him a look, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. So without further ado, let's bring him on, Mr. Ron Marmolevsky. Afternoon, Ron.
Good afternoon and morning on the West Coast. How's everything today?
Everything's good. We're at a balmy 43 degrees. All week we were 17, 18, 20. On Saturday night, Sunday, we got about 7 inches of snow. Now it's just a memory as there's only little piles here and there. We might even hit 50 tomorrow. So we're blessed back here on the Cape. A lot to talk about. The bowl games. Let me start there. The bowl games aren't what they used to be. When you and I was growing up, I had hair. It wasn't gray. When the bowl season came, Keith Jackson, Kurt Gowdy, January 1st, you had the Gator Bowl at 1. Prior to that, at 11 o'clock, you're watching the Rose Bowl parade. 5 o'clock, the granddaddy of them all, as Keith would say. And then at night was always the Sugar Bowl and then the Orange Bowl. And usually Nebraska was playing in that Orange Bowl, and I couldn't have been happier with Tom Osborne and the wishbone there. But times have changed. It's a money grab. The Mayo Bowl, the Tostito, the names are outrageous. And, excuse me, what has gotten worse now, 30 coaches coming and going. The transfer portal. Who's playing, who's not playing. And you look at a line 2 weeks ago, and then 20 people opted out, and the team's looking to see, who do we got to play? it's a popsicle headache. How do you do it?
24/7. If you're really serious about handicapping, you really can't be gone from your phone or gone from your computer. And that's a tough balancing act with the holidays and with family and everything else. So you just have to pick your spots or say, okay, we'll skip a few games. And I think that's kind of the method that the general people should look at. You don't have to bet every game. You don't actually even have to watch every game. People don't even go to these games. We saw the first game, the Boise, who played in that first game? Washington and Boise.
State.
Yeah, there were like 35 people in the stands. It was just ridiculous to have that kind of thing just for ESPN and so on. So my advice would be to pick your spots, but then stay up to date as much as possible on those games, because you're right. Lines can move 4 to 6 points within a couple of hours based on information, whether it's an overcorrection, an accurate correction, whether it's key players or whatever. We had a player at Jacksonville State that I didn't know about because I had bet Jacksonville State. The runner warmed up, and then 20 minutes before game time was spotted in street clothes. And this guy was 127 yards away from the all-time record. He had 1,200, 1,400 rushing yards. He was running 6-7 yards per carry. And all of a sudden, he's out of the game, and nobody knows it. And at kickoff, they say, oh, by the way, he's out of the game. So there's really, if you thought it was tough before the season to get a hold of all the portal things and Washington State, every new coach is going to have 50, 60, 70 new players on their roster now. How do these teams look in July, August, and September? Now you only have minutes or hours to get ready for bowl games.
And we have the final 12. The Big Four is getting a week off, or actually a couple weeks off, excuse me. 4 games kick off this weekend. The headliner tomorrow, the revenge spot for Alabama, Oklahoma. Great two-way action there. I've seen Alabama favored. We've now seen Oklahoma favored. And on Saturday, the marquee game, of course. And my headline, Ron, is there a hurricane watch in Texas A&M for this weekend? And, of course, the 2 other big games, Ole Miss, 17-point favorites, and Oregon, 21, going to be probably 21.5. We talked backstage before we dig into Oklahoma and Alabama revenge spot there. The headliner will be Miami and Texas A&M. Why? It's a 3.5-point spread. But Matt Grissom was on earlier today. That actual opening line, Ron, was 5.5. And for me, reading the market, there's only one way that number can go. And that was where it's gone, down to 3.5. And if they wanted A&M money, it would have opened up at 2.5. And they would have got it to push it to 3.5, 4. So I'm going to start there. The coaching edge goes to Elko. But A&M was undefeated till they lost the last game to Texas. They're at home. Miami, were they going to get in? Well, they're in. They have Carson Beck, SEC, Georgia, now with Miami. What's your initial thoughts on that game?
Yeah, if you just look at the paper, you take the names off the jerseys, you don't know who's coaching and so on. You can make a compelling case, I think, for Miami of Florida, because their defense with their coordinator has done such a really good job of limiting opposing teams. Miami in the past got in trouble defensively. It wasn't so much that they got in trouble defensively as much this year. And Carson Beck, I'm not sure what everybody thinks of him. He's kind of flown under the radar as we talk about Mendoza, as we talk about Moore of Oregon, as we talk about the Ohio State quarterback and other quarterbacks. We've kind of forgotten about Carson Beck, who had a serious injury at the end of last year. I think he's played his way into the kind of quarterback, the old style quarterback that the NFL used to covet, that drop back kind of quarterback. Carson Beck is extremely accurate. He hasn't been error prone. He's put together quite a resume the last 3-4 weeks. And I think if you factor him into the equation, you're going to say, hey, wait a second. this team really has some good run-pass balance. They have a running back, Fletcher, not the most shifty running back, not the guy who, he's lighting it up for 250 yards, but he gets the tough yards. Reminds me of some of the old Miami of Florida running backs in the past that got the tough yards. And he also can catch out of the backfield. And I like that in a running back, especially in bowl season, when he can do more than just run the ball. So Miami is a very formidable team. And you were right about the coaching mismatch, because there is a coaching mismatch, and A&M wants to get that bad taste out of its mouth playing against Texas. They too have a good defense, but they didn't always display a great defense. They were in some shootouts, Jeff, during the year. And that kind of was warning signs that maybe this team wasn't really the third best team in the nation or the fourth best team in the nation. Really good team, and certainly I understand their favoritism. I have the power ratings exactly even. So home field advantage during regular season, home field advantage would be 3.5 points in general for me for college. I'm not sure in bowl season it's worth that much because people travel. There's different things going on there. It might be worth 2.5 or 3 points. So that initial line, like you were talking about, was a little too rich at 5.5. At 3.5 or more, you kind of feel that Miami's going to be in the game. And if they find a way to blow it, maybe they lose it by 2-3 points or something like that. But the other advantage for Miami is special teams. They have a better kicking unit too. So there's a lot of factors in my mind that point toward Miami of Florida.
And in Matt's model, he actually has Miami a favorite and has them winning the game outright. And from a market perspective, again, just reading it, I think it's a pretty even game. I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. Who wins the turnover battle there? Really intrigued about that game. The other two games on Saturday, not as much. Two heavyweights. Lane Kiffin has left the building on the LSU. No problem. The team has kind of embraced it. 17-point favorites at last look. 17.5 everywhere but the circus. 17 with a 56.5 against Tulane. Tulane can score. Don't know how much they'll be able to slow down Ole Miss. But thoughts on this game? Is this a game where the back door might be open, Ron?
Yes, I'm reading my notes on this game. And one of the things that bothers me, because the committee does a lot of manipulation, in fact, too much manipulation. And here they could have gently avoided a rematch, Tulane at Mississippi. I don't really like rematch. I mean, Alabama, Oklahoma is a rematch too. So we get these games. I understand when you have 12 teams and you have a whole bunch of teams in from one conference like the SEC, you're going to have rematches. But should you really have first round rematches? I'm not so keen on that. The line was 10 when Tulane went to Mississippi and Mississippi destroyed them. In fact, for me, it was slightly a surprising result because I thought at that time Mississippi's defense was not playing well and actually didn't play well for the first 5 or 6 games. And that Tulane went in with a chip in their shoulder that they could go there. I like their coach, Sumrall, who's leaving as well, but staying for this game. But Tulane was beaten pretty bad. And I think people remember that. They look at Mississippi, who is a better defensive team right now than they were before. And Tulane kind of let down a little bit down the stretch. Their quarterback, he came from BYU. He was suspended from BYU, Redslev. He comes in. He does a credible job running the offense at Mississippi, but he's not a game breaker in terms of tremendous accuracy or tremendous running, but he does the necessary things to keep his team in place in this game. The biggest question I have for this game is the Lane Kiffin factor. What is it? I know 4 coaches are still there. Are their hearts still there? Are they coaching because they want to see Mississippi do well because, it reflects well on them? But are they also thinking about what's going on at their next stop with Lane Kiffin? And Tulane, I think their staff, much like James Madison, we talked about it last week, where all these group of 5 teams are losing their head coaches because they perform so well. Tulane's coach stays, James Madison coach stays. They want, I think there's a bonding that's going on there that we've seen in past bowls where the coach stays and they bond. The bigger question is how good is Tulane? At this point, they don't really match up with Tulane, but I'm not running to the window to play Mississippi because that motivation factor is so big in bowl games.
Oregon, James Madison, this thing just won't stop. 21, there are some 21s and a halves. Actually, I'm lying. I don't see any. I do see a 20 and a half at FanDuel. Right now at the Circa, 21 minus 115, so he could move it to 21 and a half. 47 and a half. Now, listen, I'm not saying I'm a Ducks naysayer. I just have said all year, I don't see that flash and flare. They're good on both sides of the ball. I get that part. They did lose at home, which never happens, to Indiana earlier in the year. Here's a James Madison team that you thought was the best of all that second group there. I guess if Oregon wants to flex, here's the spot to flex, because I would assume James Madison's not going to be able to keep up offensively with Oregon.
Yeah, here's another one. I'm so sad that they're playing each other because I think Oregon learned its lesson from last year. We talked about it last week. 12-0, they're eliminated, right out of the gate after their bye week. They played Ohio State. Ohio State got hot. They beat them. It was a closely contested game. I don't know if Oregon showed everything they wanted to show in the regular season because they didn't care about the regular season. Their job was to get in the playoffs and show better than last year. They're running 6.15 per carry if you correct for sacks. And I have a formula that corrects for sacks. So they're running better than last year, and they're doing it with some injuries. They've had some injuries here and there, but their offense, quarterback Moore has just exceeded everybody's expectations from what he was at UCLA to where he is now. And he may be the first quarterback chosen in the draft. So this team is firing on all cylinders. And I just wish they weren't playing James Madison, because everybody's going to say, okay, Oregon wins, let's say 37-10. They're going to say James Madison didn't belong. And I'm going to hate that conversation because James Madison on neutral ground is 4.5 points better than Duke. But I think they're actually even better than that because Duke didn't play that much defense during the year. James Madison did. They held teams to under 50% passing. I just wish it wasn't Oregon because I think big things are in store for Oregon. But personally, and according to my power numbers, the line is too high. So I may have a position on James Madison just because my numbers say I should have a position. But I think we're sleeping on Oregon just a little bit. But it brings back an earlier question that you had. Maybe if it was backstage, maybe it was here. How much do these teams need to win by 30 or 40 or make a statement, knowing that this is the first of 4 games for one of these teams if they're going to get to the promised land? They have to play in the next round, then they have to play in the semifinals, then they have to play in the finals. I don't think you want to shoot all your bullets in this game if you're winning by 10, 12, 14 points. You just want to get out and get to the next game.
Tomorrow, the game, great two-way action. I've seen Alabama 1.5. Now we're seeing Oklahoma -1 with a 41. A rematch. Oklahoma went to Tuscaloosa and beat them outright. This game basically comes, in my eyes, how far Ty Simpson takes Alabama. We know they can't run the ball. We know Oklahoma has a stout, one of the top defenses in the land. They're home. Revenge spot. I'm seeing Oklahoma money coming in late, which is kind of surprising because I think this is a public revenge spot for SEC and Alabama. Initial thoughts on tomorrow's Oklahoma -1 and a 41 against Crimson Tide.
Yeah, so I think the line is fairly accurate. I might have made it 1.5 or 2. It's really double revenge because Alabama was kept out of the playoffs because of the loss to Oklahoma in 2024. And then this year at home, everybody figured, they're going to extract revenge. But the -3 turnover ratio, 4 turnovers to 1, did them in a close game. So you take the turnovers out, easy to say after the fact, and then Alabama was probably the slightly better team because I agree with you. Simpson's a pretty special quarterback. In terms of my matchup analysis, I sort of still lean toward Oklahoma in this particular game. I think you saw Matier play hurt a lot during this year. He wasn't right, obviously, for the Texas game. He didn't quite get enough of a break. I think the ceiling is still there for Matier. And maybe I'm wrong because Alabama really batting the hatchets defensively. Like Mississippi, Alabama played much better run defense the second half of the season. So I think some of Alabama's defensive vulnerability is gone from the beginning of the year. So how does Oklahoma attack that? Matier plays kind of like his predecessor, Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma. I see that same kind of gunslinger action. I see that kind of will to win games. And I think Oklahoma has that ability to get to the finish line. They're at home. They have some confidence against them. Jam Miller is back for Alabama. So that's another variable that you'd say, okay, Alabama will be at a little bit more than they have full strength. They may even get a wide receiver back. So there are reasons to like Alabama, but I think Oklahoma has the better chance to get to the quarterback via the sack. And I think Oklahoma has the better kicker. So in a close game, I think that favors Oklahoma. I think Ty Simpson has to outplay Matier, which is possible. But right now, I would favor Oklahoma. Could see it either way. I mean, it's going to be a good game. That's why it's practically pick 'em. But I'm going to favor Oklahoma in this game, see what happens.
And the numbers say first one to 23 wins. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 20-20. And as you said, Oklahoma kicks a field goal and walks off the field and wins 23-20 there or something to that effect. Going to be fascinating.
Turnovers and special teams. I mean, when you have games like this between two defensive teams, that big turnover makes a difference.
NFL. Not for long. I don't think you and I have seen a season like this in our 4 years of public service here. I know I could go right to the AFC. We usually start with the NFC, so I'm going to stay there because we got a big game today. Rams in Seattle. Weather will be a factor. Rain, and more rain. Wind 20, 30 mile an hour gusts. I saw Rams opened up 1.5. This is showing pick'em. Currently at circa Seattle -1.5 with a 42.5. I'm actually seeing some 43s across the bridge, which is kind of surprising with that weather report. No Devontae Adams, or we're assuming a Devontae's out. Puka's brother gets arrested. A lot of outside noise here, and this is a Seattle team couple weeks ago that went to LA. Darnold throws 4 picks. Seattle had 5 turnovers in all, yet they lined up for a 61-yard field goal to win that game. Thoughts on tonight's battle in the NFC West, Ron?
Well, we've got a chess match going on, but everybody wants that crystal ball. Tell me that Darnold didn't throw an interception, and I'll tell you that Seattle's the better team. We're going to have those questions about Darnold, not just tonight, but we're going to have those questions come the playoffs. We're going to have those questions when he has to try to seal up the number 1 seed. This is the way it goes just because of the last 2 games he played last year, the most important games when he was with Minnesota, and the most important game he's played this year when he played the Rams the first time. I see a pretty evenly matchup. I like McVay. I don't dislike the Seattle coaches. It's just that they haven't had as many years to do this as McVay has had. So I give the slight edge to McVay. The overall team outside of quarterback, I would favor Seattle. So this is a real chess match. The winner is probably going to end up with the number 1 seed, although that's not etched in stone because San Francisco, of all teams, has a say in that because they could control their own destiny depending on the outcome tonight. I don't see a personal edge in this game, so I'm going to be on the sidelines. But I think if Seattle was an underdog, I could be tempted with Seattle because there are some situations that favor them if they're a dog in this. I kind of lean Seattle, but I'm not willing to pull the trigger because I really think this is one of those games that's going to hinge on Darnold's performance.
Packers Bears on Saturday. Here comes the Bears. Everyone wants to jump on the Patriots and Mike Vrabel and Drake May, but it's a silhouette here in the NFC, and I've been saying it all year. First year coach Ben Johnson, second year quarterback Caleb Williams, and they just keep winning and winning and winning. And here we are now. A game most likely to decide the North. Packers, 23 points. They scored on their first 5 possessions Sunday in Denver. Of course, 3 field goals, 2 touchdowns, and we're driving. And then they decide to throw an interception. The whole game flipped that way. And then Micah gets hurt. And here's a Packers team with a Christian Watson, Micah Parsons, Jacobs. They look like the MASH unit. Yet the line opened up. Packers -3. It is now a pick'em, and I can see nothing now. All of a sudden, 'tis the season for all the love and support. We get the Bears at home right where we want them. Something smells here, Ron.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but the Chicago team is different. Winning is contagious. You catch on to you just believe you're going to win. Chicago probably entered this season believing they were going to lose every game based on last year's crazy 5-in-a-row weeks where they had walk-offs here, there, and everywhere. But Ben Johnson brought a different kind of attacking culture. He brought some confidence to them. So they believed they could win, even though their stat sheet was not very good the first 7-8 weeks. Well, it's improved the last couple of weeks. They belonged against Green Bay. That was a 7-point game that was really a toss-up game. Last week, in a potential letdown spot, they didn't let down at all against Cleveland. And you and I talked last week on how, thank goodness I didn't watch the game. I was watching Phillip Rivers. I was captivated by that game last week. But it was a step-out game. I fully expected Denver to beat Green Bay, so I'm not surprised at that result. So I'm not taking into the fact that they lost into the handicapping this week. Micah Parsons is gone. Bigger issue might be Watson because he was starting to actually make an impact in games where last year he was just another guy. They got Reed back, and I think that's very helpful. And Jordan Love is still an above-average quarterback. But there's something about Chicago that says they're built for this moment. And if Green Bay wins, yes, they're probably going to win the division, which I would like. And they're probably going to reset themselves and so on. But what if Green Bay loses this game? Then we've got a whole different set of variables that even brings Detroit back into the picture. I slightly favor Chicago in this particular game. I think they have all the confidence. I think they can scheme open. And, Caleb Williams to make throws that hopefully he makes and doesn't miss. We're going to have a mixture of make and miss because he's not a finished product. But not having Micah Parsons on the field is probably another way that they could run their offense more effectively. They've somehow kept running back Swift healthy. And he's an 1,000-yard runner now this year that gives them the balance that Ben Johnson enjoyed when he was with Detroit. So I kind of like Chicago in this spot, and we'll see what happens.
The one game I can't wrap my head around in the NFC is Tampa 3-point favorites at Carolina. And here's a Carolina team no one wanted to attach their horses to that has won at home against the Rams. 9-point underdogs. They beat Atlanta when Atlanta was playing good. Here's a Tampa team that's been leaking oil for a long, long time. And they match up in week 18 in Tampa. The look-ahead line is 7 there. But again, if you sent me $100 to bet on Tampa, I'd send you back $200 and tell you, here, take the bride out and go play some tennis or have some fun here. What am I missing? How the hell is Tampa 3-point favorites in Carolina?
So this is where I like to say the handicapping for me is self-reflection. Where did I think these teams would be at this point? What were my touch points all the way through and see where it differs? So with Tampa, I'm obviously wrong. Not that I bet against, I've actually betting has been fine, but after week 11, after game 11, they had a 6 game stretch that I thought Tampa would go at least 5-1. I thought they would hit the all cylinders, that they were going to have it a little bit rougher at the beginning of the year and not have it rough now. And we've seen them really not play well at all. They haven't played like a playoff team whatsoever. So now you say, well, wait a second. Why, like you said, why are they 3-point favorites? And I did set this line at 1.5. Yeah. So I didn't have this line at 3 because based on my power ratings, Tampa shouldn't be a 3-point favorite. Then we switch over and I take a look, and this is what I encourage other people to do as well. Where did we feel Carolina would be at this point? Well, record-wise, 7-7 was probably more than we thought. But if you dig into their stat sheet, Carolina's playing like I thought they would. Their power rating is not very high. Their power ratings is if I look at my numbers, is probably the same as I opened them at the beginning of the year to where they are now. Bryce Young has had some really good games, but if you look at his entire body of work, Bryce Young looks like a below average quarterback. He's hitting 60%, which is not league average for a starting quarterback. You need to be hitting 63 to 65% for a league average starting quarterback. They're not putting up a lot of points in their games. There's a lot of things. They're winning, they're playing well, they're coaching well and stuff like that, but this is not a highly talented team. They're down in the mid-20s in my power ratings, maybe 25, 26 in my power ratings. So from a handicapping standpoint, now that I've talked about Tampa and Carolina, and I look at this game and this matchup, we know Tampa has won at Carolina in the past. They're capable of doing it. Having a 3-point line, even though my line is 1.5, says, okay, I lean Carolina because I'm not going to lay Tampa at 3 points. But I can't make a compelling case for Carolina without the hook. I could probably make a case 3.5 because I could see. You look at NFC South games, I've said this to other people. If you took 3 points on every NFC South game head to head, you're going to be making money. You're going to be affording those steak dinners and stuff like that. So I would take 3.5, but I think because Tampa has played well at Carolina and because Carolina is not a complete team, I'd rather stay on the sidelines for the game.
AFC, we could talk for 2 hours on the AFC alone. The rain is over in Kansas City, and it came crashing down. Got out early against the Chargers and did what they've done all year. They just couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score. Then fourth quarter, Mahomes tears ACL. Lord knows when he's going to come back. Officially eliminated. Thoughts on Kansas City?
Boy, this is new ground for Kansas City, isn't it? 2012, their last losing year. They had 3 straight second place finishes, which meant that every game mattered, week 16, 17, and 18. And they've had 9 straight divisional title games. And if the game didn't matter week 18, it was because they already clinched the seed and then they didn't play. So they're in a position week 16 that they haven't been in a long, long time. And I don't know what their motivation is going to be or how they're going to play the game. And, of course, without Mahomes now. So they have Gardner Minshew, who's good in a pinch. I mean, you could say that he's going to perform effectively. He's actually a decently percentage accurate passer who, as the quarters roll on, he starts making mistakes and he starts throwing interceptions. But he gets a Tennessee team right now that's not a great team. My first inclination is that Kansas City, they have no expectations on them. They could just play willy-nilly. They could do whatever they want. That, maybe we're going to see higher scoring games because why not try trick plays? Why not just throw deep? Why not just do this and that and so on and so forth? Beyond expectations of winning or losing, that I don't know. Do they play some of their rookies? Do they sit some of their guys? Do some of their long-term guys lose interest? There's a lot going on that is not easily measured. And so a lot of people would tell you, a lot of colleagues of mine and people out there in the handicapping industry says you can't control those variables. You can't even think about those variables. But to me, it is part of my handicapping, but by no means, the most major part of my handicapping. My first inclination is just to say no holes barred. There's going to be some high scoring, maybe it's high scoring or whatever. But as far as how Kansas City reacts, I just don't know.
Don't know when he's coming back. When you tear something like that in week 16, it's good. Already had surgery. He's gonna, maybe health wise actually get a little of that man bod back instead of the Friday Night Lights look. Maybe they bring someone in for insurance. I'm gonna throw a name out at you before we move on here. A guy that's had a great year, a guy that signed up to be a backup, a guy that has kept the 49ers at bay, and now Brock's back has allowed them to be where they are. How's the name Mac Jones to Kansas City next year?
It's possible. I mean, you're still looking, you're hoping if you're Kansas City that whoever you have is going to sit on the sidelines. That I think Mahomes feels he's going to be ready week 1. But sure, that would be a name. If you want to toss around quarterbacks and make it a further conversation for some of these teams that are going, a lot of teams are going to need quarterbacks. They may not want to go the college route. They may want to go the quick fix route. Jimmy G has been sitting in Ramland for a while. And he's been a winner. He's been a decent quarterback. He's a smart quarterback. He's played under the tutelage of some pretty good guys. He's played under Brady and under Shanahan and so on. He'd be a guy I'd look at as well as somebody who could even be a partially starter. Now, if I'm the Rams, I'm holding on to him to the last minute because I need to know whether Stafford's coming back or not coming back. But there's a name. But yeah, the name you gave me, he's played himself into that conversation and he's learned some good habits in San Francisco, just the same way Darnold learned some good habits in other quarterbacks. So why not?
Yeah, and the fact he started in the AFC, and no one, I never, or anyone else would have brought his name up, but he played real damn well when Purdy wasn't around, and really has allowed. I'm not saying he'll be the next coming to Sam Darnold, but we can use that as a thought process. And the idea is not to rush Mahomes back. If you needed 4 or 6 weeks out of Mac Jones, again, under Andy Reid's tutelage, hey, just do what you did in San Francisco. Don't make mistakes. We got the weapons, and then you're just a holding spot till Patrick comes back.
And I want to add to what you said, because what you said is very important, is that they didn't have to rush Purdy back because of the way Mac played. And if he doesn't play that way, I bet they do move Purdy in a week or two too soon in there. So if San Francisco is going to make the playoffs and maybe even contend, if not for the 5th or 6th seed, maybe even the number 1 seed, if they run the table and everything goes well, give an assist to the backup quarterback because his play allowed Purdy to heal.
100%. Let's go on to Foxborough because it was funny. 21-0 Pats. Portnoy comes on to the big stage. We're back. The AFC runs through New England. Get the duck boats, the parades, yada, yada, yada. And then next thing you know, 24-7, 24-14 at half, 24-21. Buffalo goes on, scores 5 straight times. Trevion Henderson has a big game, but the fact is, I think we both agreed it was a great spot for Buffalo. Hats off to Mr. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
So this is a danger. There's so many good things about Mike Vrabel, but this is one of the dangers of Mike Vrabel. And that is he dares you to pass the ball because he's from Tennessee to now, he's always been, and as I said last week, and as I said a couple of days ago, he verbalized this. He flat out said this. He wants to stop the run. And once he did that and they got out to the big lead, it forced Buffalo to pass. Eventually, they went back to James Cook, which was a good thing for their run-pass balance. But I don't know that you want to force a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow to pass, because that's still you can't fix everything in one day. And New England still would like to get a little tougher against the pass. They're allowing 2 out of every 3 passes to be complete. So because of that, I think that it enabled Josh Allen to get hot and to get back into it. But then New England took the lead again, but then they couldn't stop them at the end. I think this is more about Buffalo saying we're not dead yet. And New England's I think they're exceeding expectations this year. Maybe Buffalo is still the slightly better team. New England was never in my top 7, 8, 9, 10 power rating numbers anyway. Even during this streak, they weren't in the top 5 or 6 for sure. So we know their level now, playoff team.
I said 6 weeks ago, 13-4. I said off the bye that they would lose to the Bills, and then they would go and lose Sunday night to the Ravens, and then go to New York Jets and win and host Miami and win 13-4. Is it a 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, yada, yada, yada. Insert the Ravens. I don't know if the listening audience knows or if you know, I did see this. If the Ravens beat the Patriots and the Steelers lose Sunday at the Lions, week 17 to both the Steelers and Ravens is irrelevant. It will all come down to week 18 when the Steelers host the Ravens, win and in, lose and go golfing. Something's wrong with Lamar. Listen, 24-0. Defense has played great since Lamar came back. I can't remember the last time Lamar covered at home. Now you got a Patriots team coming off a loss. Ravens on life support. I mean, here you are, big stage. Pats lose 2 in a row. You don't have to worry about Saturday going to Lambeau. It's meaningless. Just get ready for week 18 and Steelers. Thoughts on Ravens, Pats? Thoughts on Ravens? Thoughts on Lamar?
Well, I think that's interesting what you said. So if week 17 is meaningless, I'm going to have to dig into that. So, that's a good one. Thoughts on Lamar? He still has run 117 yards total in the last 5 games. So we still haven't seen Lamar be Lamar. He's not fully healed until he actually has one of those 11 for 75 rushing days. And he's doing that, put the ball in the belly of Derrick Henry and then take it out and run on second down as opposed to third when if he has to make a play, he'll make a play. Until we see that Lamar Jackson, I'm just going to believe that part of their offense is still missing. I was shocked, to be honest, that they held Burrow to nothing. I know their point defense had been better the last 4 or 5 weeks, but I still didn't see it metrically that they were stopping the pass as well as to be able to shut Joe Burrow down as much as they did. So my thoughts on Buffalo has escalated a little bit. I think they're a playoff team. My thoughts on Baltimore, I'm still not convinced that if we take the name off the jersey and we don't realize that it's Baltimore, that they're really a true playoff team. I mean, in the end, if they do win that week 18 against, that game against Pittsburgh and they enter the playoffs again, they're going to be formidable. And yes, my power rating is higher than New England. And yes, the odds make sense. But I still need to see a little bit more from this team overall. I'm not quite buying into them yet. And I think this is a fascinating game. I have indicators that like New England, and I have indicators that like Baltimore. So unfortunately, I don't have an edge in this particular game. So I wouldn't be surprised if they won or lost.
Last question. No Burrow, no Mahomes, Lamar on life support. Yes, currently, Denver holds the number 1 spot. The Chargers with Herbert, the Patriots with May. The wild card of all wild cards, this Houston Texans team is cooking with Crisco. But my question to you, Josh Allen, if there was ever a year that this guy was going to find a way, now their defense is not as good as it's been. They don't have any premier wide receivers. It's Josh Allen, jump everyone on my back, James Cook. Is it finally going to be the year for the Bills? I mean, it's now or never, isn't it?
Around this time of year, I look at Super Bowl profiles, what teams fit the long-standing profiles and what do not. Now, some of those profiles have, because of this RPO and the short passes and this and that and whatever, it skews the data a little bit. So I don't have that perfect data that I used to have. The last perfect one was when the Rams lost to New England in the Super Bowl. That was a perfect handicap. But the game has changed a little bit that way. But that being said, Buffalo fully qualifies as a Super Bowl contender. I know they can't stop the run. They allowed 247 yards or something like that to New England, and they still won the game because in crunch time, their pass defense meets the Super Bowl requirements, at least right now. You have to wait till 18 games have been played. But as of 15 games, Buffalo, if they're in, now they're going to probably be a wild card. If somehow they become, they host the first week of the playoffs, that changes everything. Then Buffalo becomes, I think, the favorite. Doesn't matter if Denver's the number 1 seed. I think you would see Buffalo the favorite if they were the number 2 seed. Now, if Buffalo's a wild card, they're going to be a trendy pick, but they're going to have to win an extra game and they're going to have to play a lot of road games. So that makes it a little tricky. But I don't think anybody wants to play Buffalo. I don't think any offense wants to play Houston. They're going to have to play defense against Stroud and win that way because Houston's still a little bit too much one-dimensional. The running game is average. So it's going to be a crazy race, Jeff, in the AFC because we've got the teams that may sneak in like Buffalo and Baltimore, be the teams that you're going to be most worried about. Are we sweeping on Denver? I don't know. I mean, they're still not in my top 5 power ratings yet. Their stat sheet looks marvelous, but they're not winning by margin a lot of times. So something's not exactly clicking. Maybe Nix has a lower ceiling right now than some of the other quarterbacks. But if they're the number 1 seed, they're formidable too. And I honestly cannot wait for the playoffs in the NFL this year because I think it's really a fascinating year where you throw these teams into a hat and see what happens.
I can't wait either. And it's going to be the NFC is just going to be a war of attrition. Who gets the 1 spot? Is it the Rams? Is it Seattle? Does the 49ers come off the pace and shock the world? AFC, again, currently got to go through Denver, which you and I both know. Good luck going into Denver in January with Sean Payton there. The Bills and Allen have been there before, and the fact that you don't have to go through Mahomes, you don't have to go through Burrow, you might not have to go through Lamar, is just like gives them that boost. And the wild card of all wild cards is this Houston team because whoever sees them coming, good luck because you're going to have to win the turnover battle. You're going to have to hope and pray you keep your quarterback up, and you're going to know the first one to 20 or even come wintertime / January, it might be first one to 17, Ron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just going to be fantastic in terms of what's going on. And you know, Denver, let's see, they play this week, they play Jacksonville. So we didn't talk about that game, but that's a compelling game because Jacksonville was not on my radar as being 10-4 at this point in the season. So hats off to the way they're playing defense. Trevor Lawrence had a great game last week, but it was against the Jets. So we're going to toss it a little bit aside, but confidence level is high there. That's going to be a highly interesting game. I wouldn't automatically say Denver wins it. By the way, 60 degrees in Denver, I heard, for Sunday.
Well, there goes the the warm weather team to the cold weather team. There is a trend out there that teams after beating and covering the Jets are like 1-14 ATS. That just... Yeah, and what really reminds me of that is the every other week. So, yeah, you got your cupcake with the Jets. Now reality sets in when you play a real team there. As we always wrap up the show, a nice 7.5-yard button hook completion to you and Ron's closing thoughts.
Okay, well, I don't have magical closing thoughts. So let's just say I'm going back to study time. Going to get my notebook out, going to get my pen, going to get my paper. Monday Night Football, I need to know, and again, I would say to handicappers out there, people interested in football, this very thing. If you're unsure, if you're thinking, wow, I don't really know that team, how many of us know all 32 teams the way we'd like to know them? I think you're missing the boat if you think you know every team perfectly. So two teams that I want to do study time on is clearly San Francisco and Indianapolis. And guess what? They play each other on Monday night. So I'm going to have my pen and paper and whatever, and I'm going to study San Francisco because they played a fourth place schedule and they haven't exactly looked perfect. I mean, they have 16 sacks in 14 games against a fourth place schedule. And we know that Philip Rivers is going to get the ball out really quick, and they're probably not going to add a lot of sacks there. So I'm going to study San Francisco. Why is McCaffrey not running for more than 3.5 yards per carry? What's happening with San Francisco's pass defense? What happens in this game if they can't get to the quarterback? Can they still bend but not break? I'm going to study Indianapolis. Jonathan Taylor ran 25 times for 80-something yards. Not very much because Seattle was pinching up in the defense. Now San Francisco comes into town. What does Jonathan Taylor look like with Philip Rivers at quarterback part 2? That's what I'm going to study in this particular game. And Indy rallied around their quarterback and their circumstances to play great defense last week. What do they do against a scripted Mike Shanahan team? Does the defense revert back to maybe more average stats, or does it continue to rally? Study time for me on Monday night. And I encourage people to really take notes on teams that maybe they'd like to get to know a little bit better.
Shout out to Russell Saylor. Big Monday night lights for you as you host the 49ers and Mr. Philip Rivers. Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, we know, are not walking through that door there. Anthony Richardson has been cleared, whatever that means there. My closing thought is I want the NFL GMs to take a Kodak moment here and look what Mike Vrabel, Liam Cohen, and Ben Johnson have done. Now, Vrabel had experience, had a resume, but Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen did not. Now, the retreads, sorry, Pete Carroll. A lot of people thought that was a great hire to stop the bleeding, to get some credibility back on the team till we figure out who our quarterback is. Well, it didn't work. So my closing thought to all the GMs out there, do your homework. Go find the next Ben Johnson. Go find the next Liam Cohen. I don't want to say go find Mike Vrabel because I knew that. It's as easy as someone wants to get lazy and say, oh, Mike McCarthy's out there. Look what he did. He won 3 straight years, 12 games in Dallas. Therefore, insert Mike McCarthy and I'm going to win 12 games. It doesn't work that way. Lastly, the name Jeff Hafley, for people that don't know who he is, was the former Boston College coach, and then wanted to go to the NFL. That's his dream. He's now the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers. And I'll just say this here at 12:18, 2:06 p.m., Jeff Hafley will be your next head coach of the New York Giants. And it's not Bill Parcells. It's not Bill Belichick. It's not all these big names. It's a young guy who now will have to go and find the OC. Because if you hire a defensive coordinator as your head coach in today's NFL, you need to find the OC. Next week, Ron is off. It's the holiday season, always family first here at ECSI. I'm going to try to bring Ron on the following Tuesday so we can get caught up with the New Year's Eve and New Year's Day bowl games. I want to shout out to Russell Saylor, everyone else watching and listening. Happy holidays to everyone here. Embrace the chaos. Remember, be the giver, not the receiver. Have some fun. It only comes once a year, and be grateful. Lots of times we only see our families this time of year. You don't know what everyone's going through, so have some fun here. So myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Ron Momorlewski at Ron A Sports. We wish everyone a blessed day. Enjoy yourselves and stay tuned.